The redemption story of Butch Jones is one to follow across the college football landscape this season because in 2023, he took the Arkansas State Red Wolves to a bowl game, a team that has seen a lot of good head coaches come through this program. They've seen their struggles recently, but last season, they were back inside the postseason where a lot of Red Wolf fans feel like they belong and the expectations are higher. A lot of returning talent, a budding young star at quarterback. Can this team be a player in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game in 2024? Well, you're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You are in the booth with Tailgate Nate today, and I will welcome you to my channel and welcome back to prediction season. After this one goes live, which if you're watching, it means it's already live, guys, we only have 30 videos left, which means 15 days, just over 2 weeks of prediction season left. Then we'll dive into standings and all those fun things, and I'm so excited to be wrapping up prediction season, and I'm so excited that you guys have just supported prediction season and supported my channel all throughout this summer. Hey, please continue to do so. If you're as big of a college football nerd as me, you might as well subscribe and ring the bell so you can hear my thoughts during the season. Go back and watch my other videos, especially if you're a fan of a Power 4 team. All of those are already on my channel. Like, comment, share, and do anything else you can to interact with the channel because it all helps support what I do here on YouTube, and I'm just really thankful for all the people that have supported me. And now let's dive on in. Let's talk about Butch Jones Red Wolves and a team that in 2024 can see some really, really big things. Hey, we're going to take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and at the end of the video, we will go through the Red Wolf football schedule and we will give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. I do have a couple more things, though, before we do start, because right over here will be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And of course, for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. Let's waste no more time, guys. Let's dive on in. Talking about this Red Wolf offense. Just had to fix the spelling there. Apologies for the pause, but you take a look at this offense here, and look, you get a lot of returning talent back here to this team. We'll go through a couple pieces that leave this offense from last season that overall, I mean, look, in the grand scheme of things, really was pretty solid. I mean, yes, you'd like to see more yards per game, which obviously will lead to more points. You'd like to see the passing game be a little bit better, and you want this team to get better on third down, obviously, if you are a Red Wolf fan. But overall, you really can't complain with the play of a lot of individual players last season. One of them at the quarterback position, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but we got to talk about some of the players leaving that quarterback room. JT Shrout is gone now off to the NFL. He is declared for the draft, went 24 of 51 with 227 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, was only sacked 1 time last season. He declared for the draft. I don't know if he's been invited to mini camps or signed or anything like that, but nonetheless is gone off of this team. Jackson Daly has also entered his name into the transfer portal, 17 of 33 for 137 yards, no touchdowns, no picks for him last season. But the guy that you need to get excited about with this Arkansas State team is, yes, there's a freshman, Josh Flowers, coming in, and yes, you get a very experienced quarterback that had some really big moments at UCF last year in Timmy McClain, but Jalen Rayner is the guy you need to watch. A budding young star, was a really, really good player as a freshman last season, 2,550 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, had a right around 58% completion percentage, averaged almost 9 yards per completion, and guess what? All of those numbers are expected to improve here in 2024. In this Butch Jones system with offensive coordinator Keith Heckendorf leading the offensive charge, he could get 3,000 yards. He could get 3,500 yards. He could get 20 to 25, maybe even 30 touchdowns. He keeps that interception number right where it is, or obviously even if he lowers it, hey, even better. That completion percentage is going to come up, and you take a look at what he can do with his legs as well. He broke the plane to the end zone 5 times by himself, 373 yards, 123 carries. Sure, you'd like to see him maybe be a little more effective with his legs at times, but that comes with playing experience. He had a full season under his belt last year, and that's going to help him tremendously this year. I love Jalen Rayner as a quarterback here for this team, and I think he is going to see an exceptional season in 2024. No notable losses out of the running back room, so you get everyone coming back. Jaquez Cross had 716 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 128 carries last season. Zach Wallace and Cedric Hawkins are back to provide some depth for this running back room. Well, and when I say depth, I mean Wallace and Cross pretty much split carries last year. 128 carries for Cross, 126 for Wallace. Obviously, Cross was a little bit more, in fact, in ways a lot more effective by a full yard more per carry than what Zach Wallace was able to do. Nonetheless, Zach Wallace, 575 yards, 6 touchdowns. Hawkins had 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. You got a pretty solid running back room here behind quarterback Jalen Raynor. Now, in the wide receiver room, you do lose a really big piece off of last year's team, and that was Jeff Foreman. Even though he wasn't the leading receiver, wasn't even the second leading receiver, was actually the third leading receiver on this team, you definitely could argue that he was the most talented wide receiver in this room. And, well, it showed because he's going to go play on Sundays now. 573 yards, 4 touchdowns on 29 carries, did lead the team in yards per reception last season with 19.8 yards per reception. Very effective weapon that will be missed with this Arkansas State Red Wolf passing attack, but you get two of them coming back that were also exceptional players for this wide receiver room last year. Corey Rucker was right behind Jeff Foreman in yards per reception with 19.6 against again, Foreman had 19.8, but Rucker was the team's leading receiver last year. 705 yards, 2 touchdowns, 36 catches. Boy, are the fans here with this program excited to have him back. He originally transferred out of this program, then I believe transferred back in. And just he is quite the weapon for this Red Wolf offense. Courtney Jackson is also back, 689 yards and 7 touchdowns on a team high 39 catches last season. Reagan Ely and Adam Jones are also returners. And guess what? You're only going to boost up this talent that's in this wide receiver room because you dove into the transfer portal. Malik Hornsby is a converted quarterback that is transferring over from Texas State. So he's going to be playing wide receiver here for this team. You get Reginald Harder Jr., who is coming over there here into this program as well. And my apologies, Hunter Summers is a Tulane transfer that could see some solid playing time with this team as well. And with no notable losses out of the tight end room, you do get Emmanuel or Manny Stevenson Jr. back here to this team. He had 129 yards, 2 touchdowns on 18 catches as a tight end last year. Miller McCrumbie and Tyler Little will back him up as the second and third string. Now, off the offensive line, you do lose a couple pretty solid pieces. Jalen Cunningham and Hamilton Hall that both saw their starts and solid playing time last season, but a lot of returning talent does come back to the offensive line. Michaelan Thomas, Mekhi Butler, Noah Smith, Jacob Bayer, Austin Woods, Alaric Watson, and a transfer in EJ and Dama Ogar will be a combination of those 7 guys, your starting offensive line here in 2024. And after a quick water break, I'll tell you about how this offense is going to gel together. Please remember to stay hydrated out there. Hey, when I take a look at this quarterback situation, Jalen Raynor, I think, is going to be a phenomenal weapon here for this team. I see nothing but improvement on the horizon for Raynor this season. And I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the Sun Belt Conference. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about him as the season goes along. Just more and more people are going to start finding out about Jalen Raynor. He really is a budding young star with this Arkansas State team. Now, his weapons that are surrounding him, really, really good. Jaquez Cross, Zach Wallace are going to make for a good 1-2. Getting Rucker and Jackson, even though you lose Foreman in the wide receiver room, getting those 2 guys coming back are huge. Stevenson, I think, will see an increased role this season. You get some really good transfers. The offensive line, sure, in ways, could see their improvements this year. They allowed 31 sacks last year. Take that number back. And at times, they can be a little bit better in a run protection as well. But overall, when I take a look at this Arkansas State offense, I see some really good things for Butch Jones's offense this upcoming season. You definitely could get to 400 yards per game, and a lot of that heals on the play of Jalen Raynor. If he can improve as much as I think that he is going to, you're going to see this offense explode for the Red Wolves in 2024. But you have to talk about the defensive side of the ball too. Obviously, it's a team sport. You can't play offense without defense. And, well, the defense definitely, you feel like could have held you feel like the defense definitely held the potential of this team back a little bit. I mean, that rush defense just was not great last season overall. I mean, they allowed way too many yards. They allowed way too many points. The third down defense was not great. And I mean, the statistics really do just speak for themselves. This is the defense that wasn't that great last season. Definitely cost them some games where the offense was clicking, but the defense was not. And look, a lot of pretty solid talent here is going to be gone off of this defense from last season. So let's start out with the defensive line when you talk about players leaving this program. Defensive players that are leaving through the transfer portal, again, on the defensive line, Kieran Crawford is going to be gone here. Really big part to what the defense did last year. 44 tackles, did have 5.5 sacks. That's a huge loss through the transfer portal. You also are losing Denard Flowers off of this defensive line as well. He had 12 tackles off the edge last season. Another edge rusher in Thurman Geathers has graduated. No more college football for him. 49 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and actually Crawford did not lead the team in sacks. I am finding out here. I was misreading my notes there for a second. I put someone else's stats below him, but It is not that of Micah Bland. However, Micah Bland's still a very solid defensive lineman, 25 tackles here. So I'll clear up my earlier mistake. If I said he led the team in sacks, he did not. Kieran Crawford was second on the team in sacks with 5.5, and Geathers was third on the team with 3.5 sacks. The guy that actually led your team in sacks last season is a guy by the name of Nate Martley, a defensive tackle from last year that had 37 tackles and led the team with 6 sacks. So again, Crawford and Geathers not that far off, but Marley did lead the team in sacks last season. Tim Hardiman is back as well as Ethan Hassler, but a lot of this defensive line built through the transfer portal. Noah Collins, Lucas Banks, Micaiah Overton, Kamari Stevens, a couple other returners and transfers you can mention there as well, but this defensive line built through the portal I think is going to see their improvements here in 2024. You bring a ton of good talent in that I think is going to play really well for you this upcoming season. Malik Straker is gone out of the linebacker room, 85 tackles, 2 interceptions. He was the team's third leading tackler, and he is now graduated. No more college football for him. Javante Mackey is also going to be gone, as well as Gavin Potter. Both of those guys are in the transfer portal. Mackey, 84 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 pass defended for him last season. And then when you take a look at a guy by the name of Gavin Potter, still solid production, 21 tackles from him a season ago. So who comes back in this linebacker room? Well, you do get your second leading tackler back. Charles Willickes had 90 tackles, 2 sacks, and a pass defended last season. You also are returning Cam Jeffrey and Dane Motley, all guys that had Motley, not Motley. My apologies. All right, there you go. Got that fixed. So again, all 3 of those guys are coming back in the linebacker room, as well as Chris Pearson, my apologies, and Kyle Taylor that enter through the transfer portal to give this linebacker room some depth. And who knows, those 2 guys could even see some starting minutes this upcoming season. Defensive back, sure, let's talk about him. Leon Jones is now with the Chicago Bears in the NFL. You'll see him playing on Sundays, 6 pass defending, 27 tackles last season. Sammy Johnson is also gone. He's decided, well, no more college football for him. I believe his eligibility is used up. He has since graduated and led the team with 15 passes defended last year, 5th leading tackler, enormous loss out of the cornerback room. Eddie Smith out of the safety room has also run out of college eligibility, and he will be graduating this season as well. 2 interceptions, which was tied for the team lead with 2 other guys last year, Straker in the linebacker position also being another one of those guys. But your leading interception guy does come back. We'll talk about him in a little bit. He returns in the safety room, but returning in this cornerback room is Justin Hodges. He was a guy that played pretty well for you last year, 5 pass defended among 26 tackles. Dante Joyner and DeAubrey Hood are all coming back here, as well as Jordan Mahoney, who's a transfer coming into this defense. The other guy there that led this team in interceptions was Travion Thomas. He was also your team's leading tackler, 91 tackles, 4 pass defended, 2 picks. He'll return with Justin Parks, James Reed, and Brandon Greel to make for a pretty solid safety room. And kickers are people too. Let's show them some love, and I will butcher this punter's name, but I'm going to try to pronounce it. William Pristoop, and I probably butchered that entirely, so I apologize sincerely to William for that. But William Pristoop, a punter from last season, has run out of eligibility and graduated, and Dominic Zavada, a really, really good young kicker who was one of the best in the entire nation, has transferred over to the reigning national champs, the Michigan Wolverines. So what does that mean? Well, Aiden Ellison is still back to be the primary place kicker, but you dove into the portal to get your punter, Brooke Honoré Jr., hopefully I'm saying that last name right. Apologies for that weird pause there. He is coming in through the transfer portal. So overall, you take a look at this defense, and I think it's hard to see it not improve here in 2024. You bring in a ton of really talented defensive transfers that, sure, still need to prove that they can mesh, especially on that defensive front, but I think you brought some really nice talent coming back here. Martley's back, Willickes back, Hodges and Thomas will be leading each position grouping. You brought in some solid talent there through the transfer portal, especially in that defensive line room, which I absolutely expect to get better for this team this the upcoming season. And overall, I still like a lot of the talent Arkansas State possesses. The defensive side of the ball, again, I think we'll see its improvements, but it's got to show me before I can truly believe that this defense is going to be where it needs to be here in 2024, especially to support an offense that could absolutely explode this season. Here's the team's schedule in 2024. Any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics, or of course that slanted text. Any game in green is a game that I think the Red Wolves are going to win fairly easily, while any game in yellow will be a close competitive one, but I still see the Red Wolves being able to win. Any game in red is a loss. Well, their season's not going to start out like that. I got them winning a fairly comfortable one against Central Arkansas. This is an FCS level program, and look, Perfect time here to just let your guys adjust that coming through the portal, get a game under Jalen Rayner's belt to sort of feel the pulse of the season again, and then it is off and go time because you do have three really interesting, two of them really difficult non-conference games coming up, but your first one is a very winnable one. It's a home one against the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Now, Tulsa is a weird team to try to figure out this season because there are some position groupings like the wide receiver room and for the most part that linebacker room that are just going to be completely revamped here in 2024. The wide receiver room and linebacker room dove into the transfer portal and just completely overhauled there. Kirk Francis is a young quarterback that's going to be taking over the reins here for this Tulsa team. And overall, I still think Tulsa is going to be fairly competitive. I think they're going to be a solid team. But with Jalen Rayner back and that amount of talent that he has, with the way that I see this defense being able to improve, sure, it'll see its struggles here against Tulsa. But I do believe when these two young quarterbacks go head to head, whether that's Kirk Francis or anyone else that happens to start for Tulsa and Jalen Rayner, the Red Wolves got the better quarterback in this situation, and that's what I'm going to go with. Not only that, they have the home field advantage. Tulsa's going to be a solid team this year. I just see Arkansas State being a little bit better, and I see it playing out that way on the 7th of September there in week 2. Now, these next two non-conference games, I just don't see you winning. On the road at Michigan, look, the reigning national champs lost a lot of talent. They're still going to be one of the better teams in the Big Ten, and that defense is still going to be one of the best in the entire country. Not to mention Donovan Edwards is back for that team. Colston Loveland, a really talented tight end. He's one of the best in the entire nation. Offensive line should still be good. Again, I already said the defense is loaded. You're just not beating Michigan on the road, although Dominic Zavada does get to face his former team. So an interesting storyline to follow there. And you're also not being Iowa State on the road. Among some of the leaders in the nation in returning production are the Cyclones this season. That young talent that really started to explode for them last season all comes back. You mix that with a couple of veterans that return, especially on the defensive end. Love a defensive back by the name of Bo Frailer. They got some really good offensive, really good defensive talent. And overall, Iowa State's going to be a really solid team out of the Big 12 this year. Big 12 fans, watch out. Cyclones are coming for you. And the Red Wolves go through non-conference play 2-2. Now you enter conference play and you get to play South Alabama. This is where things start to get a little tricky to figure out because this is the game I could see losing for the very simple reason that if this is a secondary that is not going to see their improvements this season and some of the transfers that they brought in don't necessarily mesh in that defensive front, South Alabama can make you pay. I know there's no more Carter Bradley, but that wide receiver room is still loaded with talent. They got a lot of really good pieces there. I think the run game is still going to be solid, and while the defense, much like Arkansas State, it's going to have to make some adjustments and fill some gaps. I think it's going to be pretty solid this season, but I see Jalen Rayner being the difference maker here. South Alabama has a ton of pieces coming into that defensive back room that, look, are very talented, but again, how do they mesh? How do they figure things out? They do have overall just some really solid, talented offensive pieces, but I think Arkansas State's going to be able to match that. They got the home field advantage, and I think they're going to have the better quarterback here in this fight when Jalen Rayner plays here in this game, and that is going to end up being a win for the Red Wolves there. However, I do see you losing this one against Texas State. Now, Texas State is pretty much a better version of what I think Arkansas State's going to be this year. I think this is a Red Wolves offense, and I've said it many times throughout this video, that is going to explode. Texas Tech already did that last season, and they're probably getting an upgrade at the quarterback position. TJ Finley is gone. Jordan McLeod is in. A ton of talented pieces come into that team. I think the defense is going to see a jump in play this season, but overall, that offense is good enough to outscore anyone, especially having to go on the road and play that one. I think it's going to be an offensive duel, a really fun game to watch, but ultimately, I see Texas State coming out on top, and I think they're going to be able to win that game. I am really, really, really high on the Bobcats out of the Sun Belt this season. You move on to the back half of the schedule, and look, it's a lot easier than the front half, but you're still going to see your landmines. However, I don't think you lose this game to Southern Miss. They lost Frank Gore Jr., a ton of other really talented pieces through the portal, some gone to the NFL, much like Frank Gore Jr., and overall, just not a lot to get excited about to me for the Golden Eagles, so that's a loss there. Yes, technically a loss for the Golden Eagles, but a win for the Red Wolves. And I think you beat Troy at home here as well. And I've already previewed Troy, but Troy is still going to be an interesting team to watch out for this season. Yes, they have no more John Sumrall. You lose pretty much every major contributor defensively. You do lose Gunnar Watson, Kamani Vidal, some wide receiver pieces gone as well. But I still think Gerard Parker's group is going to be a pretty solid team out of the Sun Belt this year. Don't see them beating Arkansas State, though, so that's a loss for the Trojans and a win for the Red Wolves. But I do think you'll lose this game after your second bye week of the season to the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. If there's a year where this team is going to take a jump, it is going to be this year. The Raging Cajuns got a lot of really good talent on it. Chandler Fields is back. They return a lot of experience, both offensive and defensive. And overall, I see that being a team that can easily contend in this division to go to a Sun Belt championship game. All the pieces are there. They just got to make the adjustments. A loss for me for the Arkansas State Red Wolves, but I do think they're going to go on the road and beat the Georgia State Panthers, who I just think are not going to be that great of a football team this year. They lose everybody from last season, and I think you're just going to see a little bit of a collapse this season. So that's an easy win for the Red. Well, not an easy win. I still think the Panthers got a lot of good talent and are going to fight, but a win for the Red Wolves on the road nonetheless. And then you come back home, you beat the ULM Warhawks. They probably are going to be the worst team in the conference this year. Not a whole lot to get excited about for me. And then this final game here, you're on the precipice of an 8-win season. You have a chance to get it done against the Old Dominion Monarchs, but I don't think you do it. I think there's going to be 1 or 2 games this season where Arkansas State just has kind of a letdown, and the defense isn't going to play up to par. The offense will do everything it needs to do to win, but the defense won't, and it's going to cost them in a game or two this season. Maybe it costs them in the Louisiana game. Maybe Troy gets them. Maybe one of these road games like Georgia State or Southern Miss. I have it being the game against Old Dominion. I see it probably being the team with the most talent. With all due respect to Troy here, I think Troy probably more talented than Old Dominion is, but Old Dominion, just a team I see being able to trip Arkansas State up, and it leads me to a 7-5 record for the Red Wolves. An 8-win season, I think, is on the precipice, but it very well may be their ceiling, maybe a 9-win ceiling for me. I think the defense is going to improve. I don't think it improves a whole ton to where this team can go out and explode and win 10 games. But I love Jalen Rayner at quarterback. They got a lot of good offensive weapons. And this team absolutely, even though I'm really high on the Texas State Bobcats, can absolutely contend in this division for a berth to go to a Sun Belt championship game. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. We'll dive back on into the Mountain West and talk about the Utah State Aggies. Goodbye.